Hi, I'll start with a story. It's 2018 and a friend of mine living in Canada is getting a job at Amazon. Everything went well for him, even though the selection process is tough, and he later told me it's vital to know the Amazon principles, Amazon's core values. That was the first time I'd heard of them, so I said, well, wow, what principles you applied as a developer, right? He said, yes. But still, even developers have to know the Amazon principles. I asked, so what are these principles? And he said, well, for example, the first principle is customer obsession, being obsessed with quality for the customer. I had already started selling on Amazon back then, and I saw that all the risks were on me as a seller, so I said, what customer obsession? There's no customer obsession at all. I write to support and get some random automated response. And then it hit me that, oh, I'm not their customer. I mean, yes, Amazon is a two-sided marketplace. It has customers who will directly as individuals want to buy goods. They pay the money and they are the customers. And then there's the other side of the marketplace, the sellers. At certain times, these sellers become important, and at others, Amazon or any other platform doesn't waste time on them. And customer obsession is, of course, an obsession with quality for the customers, with the quality of service for those individuals. As for the sellers, well, they'll manage somehow. There are many of them, especially since we're in a growth phase. And today, I'd like to talk to you about customer obsession. It's handled differently in different countries, on different marketplaces, and in different areas of life. Even within the same country, it can be handled very differently. It's an interesting topic. Why? How did it turn out this way? And at the end, I'll share the story that inspired me to make this video. The story is quite unpleasant for me, but you see, I hope it'll be a good video and we'll think about it together. Everything happens for the best. Let's go. My name is Katya and I've been selling on Amazon since 2018. And today we're talking about customer focus from different angles, because we, as sellers, often have to be customer focused, sometimes even overly customer focused. I might not want to be so customer oriented, but since the market is fine, I'll act accordingly too. But first, let's discuss what customer focus actually is. And once upon a time, back in the day in Moscow, I attended a lecture. There was a guest speaker. He was an American, about, 85 years old, well, quite elderly. And he, as we call it now, was a political scientist, and he was part of a working group in the US in the 80s. And this working group, it had one task: to monitor, to research when the Soviet Union would finally start to fall apart. That was his task. I hope Roskomnadzor doesn't block me for such blasphemous talk, but that was the group. And they watched and watched. I'll say right away, they never did see it coming. That is, it always seemed like it was about time, and yet it had been going like that for 5 years, and it seemed like it would go on for a few more. So they watched and watched, but never saw it coming. But the lecture wasn't about that at all. We were just talking about life in the US, life in the USR at that time, about the current state of affairs. This was the early 2000s. Anyway, and he started with a very interesting point. He says, these countries fought and fought for many years, and there was the Cold War. And if you ask me who won this Cold War, I'll answer you with this story. I flew yesterday on an Aeroflot plane, and you know what? It's a truly wonderful, very modern airline, with comfortable seats and friendly staff. It's exactly the kind of airline that should exist in a capitalist world. And there are no winners here in the Cold War, because if such airlines exist, it means that this is definitely not the losing side. And that's an interesting perspective on the world from an American, a resident of a super capitalist country. If a country has super customer-oriented companies with really great service, and yet those services are generally accessible even to most middle-class people, then that country is definitely doing well. It honestly surprised me, and it really struck me. It's been, maybe about 15 years, and I still remember it. So an American has this opinion on what it means for a country to be managing or not managing so well. And now we move on. In general, customer focus depends simultaneously on the cultural code that is somehow present in this country. Yes. If a mentality doesn't exist, then at least a cultural code and some traditions of how we act in certain situations do exist. And besides this cultural context, I think it also, of course, depends a lot on competition. And I'll give 2 examples. Well, the first example is about competition. When, back in 2015 or so in Moscow, Yandex and Uber were competing with each other and people were talking about how great it was. I took a ride, like 2 stops, paid 50 rubles. Those were the kinds of prices back then. And there was water in the car and the driver would ask me what kind of music to put on. He wore gloves, he spoke Russian, everything was perfect, and all this luxury cost me 50 rubles. And of course, you can't help but think, well, wait, soon one of them will win this market battle and we'll all pay the price, meaning all this 50 ruble luxury will end, which is basically what happened later. And then when those 50 ruble luxury rides stopped, people started complaining like, why has everything gone downhill? The service is ruined. It's not that the service got worse, it's just that it wasn't market-based back then. But here we're talking about the kind of customer focus that's very much tied to economics, to unit economics. I mean, if a company's unit economics don't add up, you can't have such luxurious rides in decent cars with normal, sane drivers with water and being asked what music you'd like. Though that question itself might not be that expensive, though it depends on the drivers. Anyway, with car seats and all that. So you can't have this for 50 rubles if the company isn't making money on each ride but is operating at a loss. So it's pretty clear here it's customer focus aimed at capturing the market and then building a proper unit economics. And then the question is whether it'll be super greedy unit economics where you'll suffer from the prices we jack up, or if it'll be more moderate. A completely different matter is what the cultural context in the country is like. Well, for example, I'll tell you about a situation, you picture it in your head and then tell me what you think. Say you're standing in line at a hotel reception and people are checking in and everything is moving very slowly, and of course it's never clear why it's slow, whether there are real issues or just whatever, or the systems are lagging. Anyway, it's slow, and for instance, you're holding a month-old baby who's also started screaming, or I don't know, an elderly person. Any factor, really, it varies from country to country. Some other factor that you feel should be just obvious to everyone around, that they should probably let you through faster. And then, for example, the clock says 5:59 and the employee says, my working hours are over, and just heads off somewhere. That's it, he's gone. He's just left. The whole line is waiting, another employee arrives, he's doing something slowly, pouring himself some coffee right in front of the entire line, and the child keeps on screaming. And here's the question. What are your thoughts, right? Write them down, chat with me. I'd say that for people from our background, maybe the Russian-speaking one, the thoughts would most often be, oh, why couldn't that employee just finish up? There are 3 more of us standing here. He could have left work at 6:05, but instead there's this shift change and the added stress of a screaming child. Some might think, well, first of all, in some countries, for instance, a child isn't an aggravating factor at all. It's like your choice to have a child, to travel with that child, to stand in line with that child. Yeah, you could have not traveled. Well, you might say, maybe it's a necessary trip. Well, if it's so necessary, then, well, it's no big deal, just an unforeseen situation, you'll wait 10 minutes in line. And if you travel all the time, then that's entirely your problem. So, in some countries, the cultural context is such that children aren't like, oh dear, please go ahead quickly. By the way, in some countries, it's the exact opposite. For example, in Cyprus, you can just leave a child anywhere on the street and 10 people will run over and start baby talking to them. And I'm not even talking about being in an IKEA where the whole IKEA will entertain them. So on one hand, people have all sorts of different thoughts. In some third cultural context, people might even say, of course it's 5:59, his working hours are over. You'd do the same if your shift ended, you'd leave just like that, and he's doing the same thing. Those are the boundaries. In this country, in this hotel, that's how they work, it's fine. And you see how many different factors there are. It's the customer's expectations and things related to the employer's discipline, what's customary. Yeah, maybe the employer could have it written down that, well, this is customer obsession again. If you see that a task needs 5 more minutes of your time, we expect you to spend them, right? Not to mention that this person might have had some urgent business and was running late just for today. But let's say he left simply because it was 5:59. And you see how much is built up around this. What even is customer focus? To what extent is the customer right? To what extent should a business and its employees have boundaries? And all that? Let's continue the discussion. Let's talk briefly about what's happening on Amazon and on CIS marketplaces. Well, specifically in Russia and Kazakhstan, I think marketplaces are fighting each other. So these wonderful services, Wildberries and Ozon, they'll, well, probably keep at it until one of them wins. I don't know, or maybe they'll finally start raising prices for such great services. So if you're interested in my personal opinion, I think the services are very good for a disproportionately low cost. And maybe, yes, they're fighting for customers now, though on the other hand, they've already started raising prices because people often just don't want to choose. They want to use both at the same time, basically, both Wildberries and Ozon. And if another marketplace gives them a discount, then a third one, like, I don't know, Yandex or whatever else. And it seems marketplaces are moving toward increasing prices, but I think the services are very good. Anyway, about our countries, yeah, when I'd go to a Sberbank branch or go to Slugi after Germany, and there was a sign saying, if you wait more than 15 minutes, we'll give you coffee. And really, I never once sat there for more than 15 minutes. It surprised me so much. It's, well, a cool move. I'm not saying anything about the political system in our countries, but just as a signal that we're customer-oriented. A cup of coffee, by the way, costs nothing. I mean, it's probably not that expensive, though you could say if we start giving everyone a cup of coffee, the costs add up, including trash cleanup and all that. Yeah, maybe. But it really is a kind of commitment, I guess, that you won't be sitting there for more than 15 minutes. Anyway, I think it's a cool thing to think about. So we've discussed what's happening on marketplaces in our countries, and now what's happening on Amazon. Well, there's customer obsession on one hand, that's true. On the other hand, they don't really care about the sellers. I mean, Amazon tells you right away that I have so many customers that I basically have no shortage of sellers. So you'll come, you'll learn, you'll end up dumping prices, and some of you will go bankrupt. And honestly, I'm okay with all of that. I'll just keep focusing on the customer. And it seems, well, on one hand, that's how they live, but on the other, the market is mature, and it's clear it's functioning at a near equilibrium point. I'll explain why I say near. At an equilibrium point, in the sense that all this customer pampering, all these Christmas tree returns in the summer, they're already factored into the price. And I was studying in Amsterdam in a master's program, and that's where I was doing a project about talking to managers and sellers in various networks, retail and non-retail, and discussing what your overall strategy is to compete with Amazon. Yeah, fight Amazon, cooperate, co-competition, something like that between fighting and collaboration. And they often said that we know that customers know that Amazon isn't the place for the lowest price, it's the place for top service, it's the place for 1 to 2 day delivery, but not the lowest price. And it seems we might eventually reach that point in our countries. Meaning people will know that Wildberries isn't a place where I can buy a house for 500 rubles. I just sometimes order gifts for relatives in Russia on Wildberries and I'm just amazed. They thank me later saying they're such gorgeous gifts, but you can buy so much there for 1,000 rubles. So maybe one day we'll get to the point where, just like on Amazon, on our marketplaces, for the customer it won't be the place for the lowest price, it'll be the place for top service. But for now, yes, my view is that on Amazon in the US and Europe, yes, it's the place for top service, it's the place for fast delivery, it's the place for returns with no questions asked on any request. We'll see what happens in our markets. So I'll tell a story that led me to filming this video. A long time ago, I bought 10 very expensive sessions from an online coach. How did it happen? Well, I work for myself, right? I don't have any project manager over me. And it seemed like a good idea to get a coach who, well, might push me forward somehow. A lot, moderately, or not that much. And I bought a package right away thinking I'd show the person I was serious. It was a very large sum of money for me. And then things took off. I went to one conference, then another, and it was just clear to me what to do, and there was absolutely no loss of motivation or any general sense of being lost. I mean, I had this super determined mindset, and it was clear what to do, and I thought, well, why would I waste such expensive sessions if everything is clear to me? And then summer comes, I have some time, and I think, well, this is a great moment to work with a coach. I'm booking a meeting, and the money was paid long ago in euros, so everything's fine there. We get on a call, and this girl starts complaining to me that I should have booked earlier, why I hadn't been in touch, and that she doesn't even know if she wants to work with me. To me, this all seems, well, super, I don't even know, unethical, I guess. I mean, I already have so many different issues in my life, and if a coach, whom I paid a lot of money to, and whose profession is supposed to be a helping one, if she's also going to tell me that I'm wrong because I didn't book the meeting on time, even though This coach never reached out to me at all, never said, hey, go ahead and book it. She just silently took the money. And so I'm thinking, if even the coach is going to tell me I'm wrong, well, what's the point of all this anyway? And I don't even know what lessons I'll take away from this. That, first of all, I won't be giving money to anyone on the internet just like that anymore. There's no need for this commitment. People don't value it. And secondly, well, maybe we're in different contexts because she's in Scandinavia, where it's all about we have boundaries here, but at the same time, there's no service, no business, and no joy. And I'm from a completely different culture. I mean, if I don't have time to meet right now, I don't meet, and we're all adults. And when I do have time, I'll be very happy to meet. Well, that applies to friends or business acquaintances. Then I certainly won't scold a grown person for not meeting with me, especially if I've taken money from them, and not a small amount by any standards. What does this story lead us to? To the fact that we work on marketplaces. We work with clients, and clients can be very different. There's also what's it called? Consumer terrorism, right? That's when people will abuse the system. As for scammers, we're not even talking about them here, just ordinary people abusing it. They try everything on, get it all dirty, then want to return it, and the marketplace insists that we have to accept it all without question. Yes, it happens in our countries, it happens in America too, so there's that. So what can you do? Well, nothing. We remember all this customer focus. And the fact that some experts believe a country is doing well and everything is fine if its services are at a high level. Consider the context of the countries you work in. I mean, it's more of a southern vibe where people are open, sociable, and the services are better. For example, in Cyprus, the services are good, people are super open, and they really seem to want to please the customer. Maybe there's a bit of a flip side to it. They realize we're on a very small island. The community of earners here is quite small. And if you provide poor service, neither this customer nor any of their friends will ever come back to you, right? So, I don't know if it's just the southern mentality or maybe it's just the specifics of a truly local place. Anyway, keep this cultural context in mind. You're in a country with strict boundaries where at 5:59 a person silently gets up and leaves their workplace without even apologizing, saying, sorry, I need to go today. Or maybe you find yourself in a different kind of environment where the buyer actually expects much higher standards from you than usual. And since you're working there, you probably need to think about how to fulfill the whims of this buyer. We always tell our employees that the customer brings us money. Now, I'm not talking about cases of consumer terrorism, but if it's just ordinary people, in the end, they bring us money. Well, I think everyone who works with clients understands that. Have great sales. Bye-bye.